Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Hearthstone. The new expansion is viewable, not quite playable yet in Hearthstone, so we can now look at the cards and start thinking about what we'll be looking for when I do my 50 plus card pack opening video when the new expansion is actually to that point, which I believe will happen December 4th. So you go into crafting mode, you click include uncraftable cards, and then you click over here where you can select the newest expansion, which I'm trying not to pronounce the name because Rastakhan's Rumble or something is what it's called, and it doesn't really matter. Last time we looked at the Shaman cards, this time we'll look at the Warlock cards. We don't want to lose steam, so I'm going to try and move pretty fast through all of these and just see what we've got. So let's hop into it. First we have a 1 mana rarity spell called the Grim Rally. Destroy a friendly minion, give your minions +1/+1. For the Warlock, sacrificing a minion to buff other minions makes sense. This is not a terrible card. You could theoretically play this on like the 6th or 7th turn and have 6 or 7 minions on the field, so you would destroy one of those minions and then the other would get buffed. That would be +6/+6 for 1 mana, and then you'd still have like 5 other mana on the 6th turn to spend, and you could potentially do this twice using some other tactics. It would still be beneficial if there were 6 minions on the field to destroy something else and then buff the remaining 5 another +1/+1 for 2 mana. So yeah, that's a really good card. And the Warlock class, in my opinion, needs some good cards. It's really hard to play the Warlock class. There's really no strategy I've seen that makes sense and makes it really doable. Warlock should be a lot easier to win with, considering you're drawing cards all the time with the hero ability, even if you are hurting yourself to draw those cards. There should be more healing spells, there should be more synergies there, and it doesn't feel like they've gotten to that point yet. Next we have a 1 mana spell called Shriek. Discard your lowest cost card and deal 2 damage to all minions. Like, you could see playing that in some rare scenarios, but unfortunately I think the scenarios that you would play it in is probably the scenarios where you're going to lose more often than not, because if you're discarding your lowest cost card, dealing 2 damage to all minions, you probably don't have any minions on the field, and so that's not a good move. That being said, this is a discard card, and there is a potential deck, or there was the thought of a potential deck built around the discard mechanic, which is not used enough. It hasn't been up until this point. There is a card, it may be in Wild now, but at one point there was a card that if it was discarded, it would automatically be summoned to your hand. So now you could do some deck or hand manipulation, have that card be the lowest cost card in your hand, and then play this, deal 2 damage to a bunch of minions. Maybe that's useful, maybe it isn't, but then you summon that other minion for free. And then there's another card that's a legendary that brings back or summons all the cards that have been discarded this game, or gets a bonus for all the cards that have been discarded. So this might work in a discard deck. I don't think you'd want to play it in any other kind of deck, though. Next we have a 2 mana 0 attack 3 health minion called Spirit of the Bat. It has stealth for 1 turn, and after a friendly minion dies, give a minion in your hand +1/+1. Now there is a pretty common Warlock card that has charge and is pretty powerful to start off with. When you summon it, you have to discard 2 other cards. If you're buffing that card up throughout several turns, it's possible you could get a 1-turn kill. Just buff it up to like 30 damage. But you would have to, I guess, lose 30 other minions. That seems like quite a bit. Or 25 other minions. But then you could have 2 of these on the field, and then that would double. There might be a strategy there, but I don't know if many people would fall for it or bother to set it up. Next we have a 3 mana 2 attack 6 health minion called the Reckless Dire Troll. This one's a common minion. It has taunt and a battle cry to discard your lowest cost card. Again, yeah, in a discard deck this makes a lot of sense. Still probably a decent card anyways. You're getting quite a lot of health and a taunt for 3 mana there. The attack is pretty good too for what you're paying for. Next we have a 4 mana 3 attack 4 health legendary minion called High Priestess Jeklik. I guess that's Jeklik. I wish there was a way you could like double click on the pictures and see them, because I know I'm playing from 10 feet away looking at a TV that's about 40-inch TV, maybe a 50-60-inch TV. It's not a huge thing, but I'm so far away that I really don't see a lot of details. I can't honestly tell you if this is a male or female. It looks like it's probably a female by the hip ratio, but I don't know what's going on here in the face, and I really would just like to be able to zoom in and see it in full screen. I can use the Windows Accessibility Magnifier if I really wanted to, but it's kind of a shame that all their art is kind of hidden in this frame that you never get to see any bigger. Anyways, 4 mana, 3 attack, 4 health, legendary minion High Priestess Jeklik. It has taunt and lifesteal, which is pretty good for 4 mana. And when you discard this, add 2 copies of it to your hand. Interesting. So on top of this being a yet another card that benefits from being discarded, you could basically have an infinite number of these in your hand, or ready to get more in your hand. You could play this on the 4th turn, get some more copies, play it on the 5th turn, 6th turn, 7th turn, and every turn after that. Well, also it's a legendary though, so you can only have 1, so this is also the first incident, I believe, in which you could have 2 legendaries or under your control that you can predict. There may have been some other instances where you could have had 2 legendaries, but it was pretty random. That sounds like a good one. I'm liking the cards I'm seeing for the Warlock so far. It feels like they're going to build a decent discard deck, which I'd be happy to play. Next we have a 6 mana, 6 attack, 6 health minion called the Soul Warden, and this is just a basic amount of cost for a basic amount of attack and a basic amount of health, and then it has a battle cry to buff it up some more. The battle cry is add 3 random cards to your you discarded this game to your hand, so all those cards you've been discarding now come back to your hand if you play this, and yeah, that makes some sense. There hasn't been a card like that really. Next we have a 7 mana 5 attack 8 health minion called the Blood Troll Sapper. After a friendly minion dies, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. I think you could probably use that to your advantage pretty well. It's a pretty late game idea. Now, Hearthstone has these choose your champion type events where usually you're picking a real world champion, but in this instance you were picking a virtual figurehead of this new expansion to see who's going to win. And I'm thinking, I've already picked, if you win you also can win some free packs. I've already picked, but I'm thinking if you were going to pick, I would recommend the Warlock right now. It seems like of all the expansion cards that I've seen, Warlock is getting the most boost and advantage from the new cards, whereas some of these other cards barely even make sense to play at all. And of course, everybody should go to Hearthstone.com and choose their own champions, find that, and get some free cards. We could all do with some more free cards, certainly. Next, we have an 8-mana spell called Demon Bolt. Destroy a minion. It costs 1 less for each minion you control, which theoretically means you could have 7 minions on the field, and this would be a 1-cost spell. Seems fair enough, but it's not super likely that you would have a ton of minions on the field as a Warlock. That's generally not how it goes, but it's not terrible. Even at 8 mana, destroying a minion is pretty decent. Next, we have an 8 mana, 1 attack, 1 health beast legendary minion called Hyrek the Bat. Battle cry, fill your board with copies of this minion. So the only reason you would play this is if you're buffing this in your hand, and then you're really embracing a different strategy than the discard deck strategy. It's possible that you could do this and buff everything up to something reasonable, like a 5/5. I doubt you'd get it up to an 8/8 or a 10/10. And then if there's nothing else on the field and you play this on the 8th turn, you then would get 7 5/5s or 7 8/8s or 7 10/10s on the field, which sounds good on the 8th turn if you make it to the 8th turn. I think in practical use though, this really wouldn't work. I don't think that there's enough buff cards under the Warlock class for that to make sense. Finally, we have an 8-mana spell called Void Contract. Destroy half of each player's deck. Alright. This on the 8th turn could be devastating, particularly in the sense that if you are playing somebody to the 8th turn, you're probably playing somebody who's trying to play some kind of strategy, and there's a decent chance that that strategy would be messed up if half their deck was destroyed. And I'm not sure if there's anything else that you could do there. Like, I think there is a minion that will steal an opponent's deck and make them have to pay a high price to get it back with like a ransom spell card that's given. And I'm fairly certain that there is a card that would mix both players' decks and then give them back to each other. So if you played the spell that did that, mixed them together, and then destroyed half of them, and then mixed them together, and then destroyed half of them, the odds of them having the card that they're looking for becomes very low. And at that point, even if you you'd be very low at that point. By the 8th turn, there'd only be about 20 cards in your opponent's deck. You can play this epic card twice and cut that down from 20 to 10, and then a second time you'd cut it down to 5. So you play that on the 8th or 9th turn, you've got them below 10 cards, but that's still plenty of turns to fatigue and still fight and potentially win. I don't think you're going to get a guaranteed victory playing 2 of these cards, but it might frustrate a lot of people, certainly. What I want to look here is, let's just look at the standard cards for the Warlock and see if there's really some synergy here. Let's see, summon all the friendly demons that died this game. There really weren't a lot of demons in this expansion. Nothing there. Destroy your hero and replace it with Lord Jaraxxus. Nothing really there. Swap this with a minion from your deck. Nothing there. Let's see. I'm trying to look at all of these cards just to see what's in the standard set. Add the first seal to your hand. This didn't make a lot of sense. It didn't work greatly. But if you play this long enough, you'll eventually, I believe, destroy all of your opponent's deck. So you could have several different ways to ruin their cards, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't work the way you'd like it to work. You see, these Omega cards didn't amount to anything from Boomsday. Yes, Doomguard here. If you buffed him up to a like 30, you could get a 1-turn kill, but that's asking quite a bit. And he's basically the only charge minion I think you have there. Let's see. So this legendary that I don't have has lifesteal and +1 attack for each card that you've discarded. So if you're going to make a discard deck, you kind of need Blood Queen Lenethal. I'm not pronouncing anything well today. But still doesn't really feel like there's a strategy here that makes a lot of sense. Still feels like you're kind of gonna struggle playing as the Warlock. And most of these attack demons that are specifically to Warlock, because demons are specific to Warlock, like most of these are not going to benefit from the discard, the lowest card in your hand, because these are all lower cost minions. Remove the top card of your opponent's deck. Whenever you discard this, give it 2/2/2 and return it to your hand. I guess you definitely need that also if you're making a discard deck, so you can kind of see why I don't have a discard deck. Draw 3 cards at the end of the turn, discard them all. This was an interesting concept. Give the leftmost minion in your hand +2/2. Discard 6 cards to get the Nether Portal. Yeah, that would work too in the discard deck. Yeah, there's quite a lot of cards I think I need if I was going to make a discard deck. Otherwise, I'm kind of stuck. See, that puts me in a weird position just as potentially criticizing this expansion, because so many of these cards only make sense if you're playing a discard deck. and to play a discard deck requires at least 2 legendary cards that you're very unlikely to have. And then the other cards kind of don't make a lot of sense. And this is a deck destroying deck that only really makes sense if you get both of these epics and have all the previous deck destroying cards. So for people who have every card in Hearthstone, for those top tier professional streamers and players out there, Warlock looks to be an amazing top tier meta deck that would be interesting and fun to watch those type of people play. But for the real people in the world playing Hearthstone, people that don't have all the cards, people that are struggling to even make it to say rank 20 or rank 15. I mean, I struggle to get to rank 15 for the amount of time and effort I put into it. That expansion set's not going to be amazingly helpful. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. We only have one more hero class in the neutral cards. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist, or support me through Patreon. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.